This is a Private Officer Beat Radio with Rick McCann at the microphone. This is a Private Officer Beat Radio with Rick McCann at the microphone. You're listening to the Private Officer Beat Radio Show, broadcasting live from the Blue Ram Media Studios. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Private Officer Beat Radio Show. Episode, I think, somewhere around 750 or close to it, with over 1,000 radio shows broadcasted and produced. That's right, Private Officer Beat Radio, a production of Blue Ram Media Group, LLC, and Private Officer International. And we've covered many topics over the years and talked about a lot of things. And I think I mentioned this probably a few radio shows ago, but we've noticed that a number of newcomers have actually gone back into the library where most of our radio shows are stored and listened to some of those old radio shows, and a lot of those topics are relevant today. And that's pretty similar to training and what we do in life, our education. Much of what we learn over the years can definitely be relevant, and just like they say with clothing and furniture and different things, keep it long enough and it's going to come back. You know, it's going to come back. Someone asked me just this past week, "Hey, did you wear bell bottoms? Because I think that's another thing coming back around." I said, "Well, yeah, I did. I did wear bell bottoms, but I won't be wearing them this time." But with training and education and things that we learn, usually these are good things, and oftentimes when you're in a situation, they take over. And you'll hear that time and time again from police and security officers where they've been involved in a shooting or some type of incident, and they just let their training take over. And so, yeah, that's a good thing. So we've noticed some folks who are going back into our library of radio shows and listening to them. In fact, I've listened to a few of them in recent months, and they were still on point. So very happy about that. I do want to mention, if you are a long-time listener and you went to listen to our weekly show over the last couple of weeks and it wasn't there, we did get one broadcasted out this past Monday, but we missed a couple of shows. We had some broadcast issues with our vendor, and they were having some difficulties, and they had technicians working for well over a week, so we were not able to broadcast our show, and that does happen from time to time. There's technical glitches. We have updated all of our equipment and broadcast microphones and different things over the last year or so. We've got a lot of technology behind the scenes, and this is a fully produced radio show. This is not a podcast where somebody's speaking in to the microphone and recording it and then putting it on some website someplace. We are producing the radio show just like you would any place else. In my younger days, I had the opportunity to be behind the microphone, and even when I was younger than that, I had an opportunity to hang out at WCCC Radio in Connecticut, and we learned a lot. I learned a lot, and my friend that was with me, we all learned a lot about technology back then and broadcasting and how it all works. And actually, back then, a lot of times the show was put on tape, and that gave the the radio show host an opportunity to go use the restroom or get a smoke while the music played. These days, radio shows do the same thing. They pre-record a lot of their radio show and they dub it in, and it just becomes a complete radio show. But really, most of the time, only parts of it is live. Everything else has been pre-recorded. And that's the same thing, of course, with much of your TV shows. Very few shows are live these days, and those that are, there's still a lot of technology behind getting it to broadcast. Anyways, thanks for all of you joining us on today's radio program. We certainly do have a lot to talk about, and if we have the time, we're going to be bringing you the winners of the 2024 Private Officer Awards, and we'll be publishing those out in the next day or two as well. And every year we hold a award program. We give people the opportunity to nominate their co-workers, their boss, or the boss to nominate the employees, or even others. Some nominate. We've had teachers nominated. We've had plenty of law enforcement nominated, and so on and so forth. And we'll be announcing this year's recipients of those awards. Before we take a first break, I just want to let you know that we are experiencing some staffing issues, just like most companies. We often talk about how much work and time that it takes to put together not only our radio show, which takes many hours. We just don't get behind the microphone. Like I said, this isn't a podcast. This is a produced radio show. But also the news itself. It takes over 100 hours a week to write, curate, verify, and put together our news blogs, which is fresh every day. You can go to it at privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com, as well as all of our newsletters, our news alerts, our Officer Down alerts. Please go to our website at privateofficer.org. Click up there where you can donate on the Officer Down page. You can write in there that it's for support. You can write it in there that it's for Officer Down Memorial, whatever it is that you want it to be designated for. We really need your help these days, and I'm afraid that if it doesn't come soon, if more people don't support us, we're not going to go out of business, but we are going to have to reduce a lot of our services and programs, and I really don't want to do that. We will take a quick break, and when I come back, we've got a lot more to talk about. I want to talk about some upcoming training. We're going to talk about a lady in her 70s I told you about who was shot. We talked about her last week, and I want to give you an update on her condition, and I'm going to tell you about a new opportunity to own a business, and it won't cost you anything out the gate. You're listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector on the Private Officer Beat Radio.
Slow down.
Slow down and move over.
And move over. When you see lights,
Vest or reflectors.
please give us some room. Slow down and move over. When you need us,
We've got your back.
you have ours.
You got our back?
You got ours? You got our back? Please, slow down.
And move over.
Are you looking for the finest private security officer training in the Charlotte metropolitan area? Do you need PPS qualifications in armed or unarmed training? Or maybe you're over there across the line in South Carolina and you need the SLED training. Well, we've got the right training at the right time for you. Premier Training Academy, located at 5624 Executive Center Drive, Suite 142 in metropolitan Charlotte, North Carolina. Give them a call today, 704-806-4933. They also offer firearms training, personal protection, first aid and CPR, and so much more. Call John at 704-806-4933. Back on this edition of the Private Officer Beat Radio, May the 13th, 2024, a Monday. That is, unless there's a broadcasting issue and this doesn't get broadcasted today, but hopefully everything will work out. And yes, you'll be listening live to our show on Monday, May the 13th, 2024. A lot of great things are happening across the country. I want to tell you about something that happened this past week, and I think it's just going to show you once again what we have been talking about when it comes to security officer using force, security officers depending on law enforcement's response for backup, and other topics that we've been preaching for years, and especially, the last 3 or 4 years, while police departments are so sorely understaffed. Just in the last 3 weeks, or maybe a little bit less, 2 sheriffs in Florida announced that, yes, private security may use force to detain a person. Yes, private security may, like any other person, defend themselves when they are being assaulted or someone pulls a weapon on them. And yes, private security has the authority to detain a person who has committed a crime or reasonably believes they've committed a crime until law enforcement arrives. This is not the only state where we're seeing and hearing the same tone of law enforcement. While many law enforcement agencies still have that, well, they can't do that, and they're observe and report, there are many other law enforcement, police chiefs and sheriffs who are realizing that the law does allow them to do certain things. And that includes detaining a person suspected of committing a crime, using force when they've been assaulted or under attack, and to use reasonable force, even deadly force, when necessary. According to a recent article that I read just in the last 2 days, in another country, not even the U.S., law enforcement told the press the same thing. In Australia, after thieves robbed a jewelry store and injured security, law enforcement announced that security may use force to fight back. Security Association Chief Executive Gary Morrison told the press that security officers are increasingly facing hostile situations and coming under attack. He even said that they need more authority, that they need more protective gear, and more powers to arrest these suspects. According to the news article, there have been substantial increases in physical aggression across most public-facing security roles, Morrison said. These range from cussing and swearing and threatening to physical bodily harm and assault against security officers. We have watched this increase steadily in recent years. Injured security officers is no longer occasional, once in a while, he says. This is a daily situation. We've seen that change in society. probably post-COVID, where people just have slightly different attitudes after they came out of COVID. They feel like they can do anything and that they have a certain level of entitlement. This is what the Security Association chief executive told the press just in recent days. Doesn't this sound like what we have been saying for years here at the Private Officer International Company? We've been trying to, explain this. Now, this is another country. This is Australia. We hear the same thing, we see the same thing in the UK, Canada, even recently in India. We're seeing across the board worldwide that security forces are having the same issues. He went on to say that the association is looking at stab-resistant vests and body cameras to aid security. Although the equipment is not cheap, more than $1,000, it would add to the cost of the security service delivery, yes, but it would also possibly save a life, prevent an assault, and we have to weigh the balance. He also talked about knives and machetes becoming one of the weapons of choice by many people. And again, we see that happening here in the U.S. and elsewhere. Police are not going to be able to respond ASAP in many situations. Police are not even capable of backing up their own officers. Time and time again, police are on a call, and they're calling for backup, and they're minutes away and sometimes longer. In fact, in many counties, the sheriff's department only has 4 or 5 deputies or less, and it takes that deputy coming from across the county 10 or 15 minutes. Recently, DNR, Department of Natural Resource Ranger officer, called for backup. A man with a firearm threatening the officer. The county deputy sheriff was so far out, 17 minutes or so, that officer, that Department of Natural Resource officer could have lost his life. But he was able to continue talking to the armed suspect, eventually getting him to disarm himself, and he was taken into custody. Security is not the only officers, not the only people facing these serious situations, life-threatening situations every day. Go to our news blog, Private Officer, breakingnews.blogspot.com. You'll see them there every single day. We're going to take another quick break. I want to talk about how you can make a difference and how you can start a whole new career with $0. You're listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector.
If you're not already receiving breaking news and our bi-weekly newsletter, Officer Down reports, and discount training news in your personal or business email, then go to our website right now at privateofficer.org. Privateofficer.org. A Dropbox will come down. Just fill out your info, and you'll be the first, one of the first, for sure, to know about what's happening in the security industry. You'll know when a security officer is killed. You'll also get these great discounts on training and equipment and so much more. Privateofficer.org. And if you're not already a member of the Private Officer International Association, sign up while you're there today. Become a lifetime member for just $99, and we'll also include a free Private Officer International patch and lapel pin.
Private Officer International, the voice of the Frontline Protector.
Life is precious. Ask any of these people. They've been given a second chance at life through organ and tissue donation. But there are more than 84,000 Americans waiting for life-saving transplants. 17 people die every day waiting. I didn't know this until I lost my best friend, Lyric. She gave the gift of life to 5 people. That's why I've become an organ donor, too. One decision saves so many lives. Donate life.
I couldn't even imagine in my mind how my life was going to ever be okay. And that didn't last very long.
Only on ABC 13 News tonight, the 74-year-old security guard shot at a Lynchburg Waffle House is telling her story. She just got out of the hospital after being shot in the face while on the job 2 weeks ago.
It is remarkable. Rosalind Ebelt sat down with ABC 13's Rachel Branning today. Rachel joins us live from that Waffle House on Wards Road where she was shot. Rachel, we all want to know, how is she doing?
Mark Stanner, Rosalind is home and recovering. She says that it's really the outpour of support from this community combined with her faith in the Lord that's helping her get through.
I can look outside and see that sun shining. I can know that I'll see my granddaughter this weekend.
Rosalind Ebelt is grateful to be alive after spending 7 days in the hospital and 3 days on a ventilator. You're alive.
Yes. It's amazing.
She calls surviving being shot in the face a miracle.
Don't even bother to look up the statistics of what the survival rate is. Never mind a good outcome.
And that good outcome, Rosalind says that's a testament to her faith.
There were lots and lots of prayers taking place for me. From the minute it happened, I could feel them. I could see them. I could touch them.
She says she has a long road of recovery ahead, but she's thankful to still be here.
Even if I am never back to 100%, Rosalind Ebelt at 50 or 60% is a pretty amazing person. How many people do you know that can say that?
I have listened to this lady's interview that she did on a local Lynchburg, Roanoke, Virginia radio news show. And each time I understand how she feels and what she's gone through, because I myself have been injured seriously 3 times while working in security. I've been stabbed twice, and I had received over 140 stitches and staples to my head during an apprehension of a robbery suspect, a burglar. And when she talks about how she feels and how lucky she is, here is a 74-year-old woman who was shot in the face while working security at a local Waffle House in Virginia. And now, just about 10 or 12 days after the shooting, she's saying she's thankful. She said in a different interview that she loved her job and she would consider going back to it. That she loved being out with the public, helping, talking to them, and providing security. This was a 74-year-old security officer working at a Waffle House. She intervened in some type of situation, and she was shot in the face. The suspect's arrested and still in jail, but that doesn't really have any real true meaning after someone almost lost their life. Now, this security officer, if you look up the video online or any pictures, she has a bullet hole still in her face near her nose that probably will never heal more than it already has. I don't know how in the world to say, oh, these things happen. Oh, yeah, it's probably the boss's fault, probably the employer's fault. Maybe he shouldn't have sent her over to that location. But in the end, it's the suspect's fault. It's the shooter's fault. And we should be mad at him. But we should also question, why would a company send someone of that age to that type of environment? I don't think that we can say for certain that, the security officer, that's on them. They shouldn't have worked. They shouldn't have been in security. Well, maybe that's true, but they have a right to work. Across the board, more and more security personnel are being injured. Just like I talked about a moment ago, this isn't just here in the U.S., but it's happening across the board, across the country, around the world. And I don't know how to prevent these type of incidents from happening. Just this past week, even though we're understaffed, and even though we're having to reduce some of our news services, we were able to track 41 shootings across the country by and with security, defending themselves and shooting people that was armed and threatening them. How do we prevent it? I don't know. What can we do? What should we do? I'm all ears. I ask people for suggestions. I ask people to get involved. helpdesk@privateofficer.com. Now I'm checking. I know that there is a GoFundMe page set up for that woman, and you can go to the website, look her up, and help her out. We've decided not to set up any type of fundraising. We don't want to take away from what's already being done by her family, but I would really hope that you donate. You can even send her a get well card. That information, I believe, is on the GoFundMe page as well. In the program today, we're also talking about some training. Training is vitally important. We're offering several in-person training for you, your company, your church. Force training, which is very important these days, knowing when and how much force to use. We also have a CIT, a Certified Crisis Intervention Training, and this is a 40-hour certification. And this is really needed. It's something that many police officers take, many departments mandate, and now you can also take it as well. It's in-person training. We talk a lot about mental health, how to recognize it, how to respond to it, and this is really extremely important. We're also sponsoring a one-day certification, advanced first aid, advanced CPR, AED, Narcan, and Stop the Bleed certification. You can contact Help Desk at ARMOUR, ARMOUR college.org if you would like to register for us to come to your business or church to teach this. We also have a brand new type of school. This is going into a trial program. It's called Armor Tech Community School, where we give a number of training once a month. We may start with a first day CPR. Next month it may be personal protection, home protection, and training and education that anybody in the community could use. And just before COVID, we did run a couple of these, and it went very well, so we're going to do it again. When I come back, I'm going to talk about the Memorial Week this year and a couple of other things. And then our subject today is exactly what they were talking about in Australia. Assessment of a situation, response from law enforcement, and really what your rights and authority is. Most of you say, I know it. I took the security guard training. Okay, dude, I know. But do you? Do you really know? And we'll be right back on the private. Across the country, there's a new 3-digit emergency number if you're feeling suicidal, if you're experiencing a life crisis. 988 is now the 3 digits that you can dial, just like 911 across the country. You'll connect with mental health professionals, and the 988 number will connect you with the Crisis Lifeline, formerly known as a National Suicide Prevention Line. Veterans can press 1 after dialing 988 to connect directly to the Veterans Crisis Lifeline, which serves our nation's veterans, service members, National Guard, and Reserve members, and those who support them. For text, veterans should continue to text the Veterans Crisis Lifeline short code 838255. Too many people experience suicidal crisis or mental health-related distress without the support and care that they need. But you're not alone. Simply pick up the phone and dial or text 988. Someone will answer that phone who is caring, understanding, and there to help you. 988. There is hope. You're listening to the Private Officer Beat radio show, broadcasting live from the Blue Ram Media Studios. Unified Public Safety Services is a different kind of company. We offer law enforcement, private law enforcement officers in several states, public safety officers, community service officers, and we provide an array of public safety services. Right now, we are in the midst of expanding. We've added a new service, the Real-Time Crime Center, which is high-tech, something that very few private companies have access to, and that will be online soon and made available to many different companies, schools, and law enforcement. Unified Public Safety can provide services to help your community law enforcement departments to staff up, to take away some of the responsibilities that police have. In many areas, community service officers take reports after a situation has occurred. They even investigate non-injury traffic accidents, among some of the other things that they do to help law enforcement reduce the calls that would take them maybe hours. Even a non-injury accident could take an hour just to investigate and write the report. Unified Public Safety is offering you a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We're going to, starting right now, give you an opportunity to open up your own branch of Unified Public Safety. And the way that this is going to work is very simple. Now, we are operating a franchise system, but that system, for you, isn't going to cost you anything to start. The office will be open on our dime. We will train you, we will certify you, and we will equip you to get started almost immediately. But in order to be selected, you have to write an essay. We want to hear from you. Why should you be selected? And if you are selected, what is it that you're going to bring to the company and to the community? What do you bring to the table? You'll also have to send us a resume and tell us more about yourself. In the next 30 days, we're going to pick the top 2 people who really, we're going to give them everything. We're going to set them up in business. So if you're interested, answer those questions and send us your resume to helpdesk@privateofficer.com. Now, that's not the official email address to Unified, but kind of a point of contact. We'd like people to send it all to the same email so they don't have to run around and try to remember all of the different emails that we have. Helpdesk@privateofficer.com. That'll get forwarded over to the manager, operations manager for Public Safety Services, Unified Public Safety Services, and you'll be notified within 30 days. This is a great opportunity for anyone who has law enforcement, military, or substantial security management background, somebody who has a level head, somebody who really is looking to be in business for themselves but not by themselves and to start a new career. Remember, answer those questions, send us a resume. We will announce those 2 selected within 30 days. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the woman who was shot while working security and a whole lot more. This is the Private Officer Beat Radio, a production of Blue Ram Media Group, LLC, and Private Officer International.
Being with you was a blast. Our future together was looking pretty good.
There was the explosion, and I remember just opening my eyes, and it got both of my legs. I had surgery after surgery, and what's going to happen next? The Wounded Warrior Project said, look, brother, everything's going to be okay. 3 months from now, 4 months from now, a year from now, you'll be fine. I don't know if I would be as well adjusted as I am now if it wasn't for them.
To learn more, call 1-877-832-6997 or visit woundedwarriorproject.org.
In our news this morning, schools across the nation are once again adding armed SROs and security officers. One of the locations where we can pinpoint this type of activity happening is New York. It wasn't just but a few short years ago when New York as a whole, the state from one end to the other, dumped their SROs and security officers. But now, all of a sudden, they've done a 360 and they are adding security officers. On Long Island alone, 17 school districts in the last year and 2 others that have already agreed have all added armed security officers. According to school officials, security is a part of the layers of protection that's necessary for any school. Armed security officers are part of the district's plan to protect our students and our staff. And as I have been saying for more than a year, more and more school systems across the country are rehiring SROs and security, understanding that without them, they have no protection. Violence at our schools, including assaults and shootings and murders, have risen drastically. And thus we're seeing the rehiring of officers for schools. A Texas man this past week pled guilty to an armored car robbery in Overland, Missouri. The man, who admitted to stealing $319,000 during an armed robbery of an armored truck, pled guilty. According to the plea, he was found guilty of interstate transportation of stolen property and given 10 years in prison. Happening right now in our country, and maybe you're not even aware of it, armored truck robberies are up, they said, by almost 200%. So if you're an armored car security officer, be on your toes. A security guard was sentenced to 12 years for manslaughter, accused of killing a thief. This happened in Jacksonville, Florida. The security guard on duty of an illegal gambling facility during a robbery. This happened late last year in December. Shot and killed a man as he tried to grab some cash. Police originally charged him with murder, but in court he took a plea for manslaughter. A man has been arrested in Miami for posing as a security guard. The man was going from apartment to apartment trying to break in. He was charged with burglary, falsely impersonating an officer during the commission of a felony, grand theft, trespassing, and false fire alarm. Abdul Woodside, 28, remains in custody. Multiple people of several apartment complexes said they saw him on their Ring doorbell video breaking in to their neighbors' apartments. Another man has been accused of shooting at security. This happened in Memphis, and law enforcement are outraged because this happened at a nightclub. He was released on $500 bond, even though he's charged with at least 4 felonies and 3 misdemeanors and has a criminal record. Nicholas Bundy, 23, is accused of aggravated assault, possession of a firearm, public intoxication, possession of a firearm while intoxicated. According to a local former district attorney, the bond should have been at least $100,000, but they let him out on $500 and told him don't go back to the nightclub. In Church, Texas, 3 suspects are in custody for an armored truck robbery. Glenn McGarity, 41, Anil Tedder, 31, and Dante Robertson, 23, all connected with armored car robbery. San Antonio police were called to an armored car robbery on Tuesday. They were able to apprehend one of the suspects. Several others got away but were later caught. A student is arrested in Miami-Dade after assaulting a security officer during a confrontation. Police were called to assist security at the Miami Carroll City Senior High School. In Florida, Texas, and Illinois, it's a felony to assault a security officer, whether it's school security or any security officer. The suspect was transported to the county correctional center and is being held on a $5,000 bond. A security officer staying here in Florida in the Tampa area is under arrest. The school security officer tipped off a Henderson Hammock Charter School teacher that he was being investigated and may be arrested for an inappropriate conduct with 2 students. Detectives arrested Jonathan Shepard, 38, saying he inappropriately touched students and sent inappropriate text messages. But the school resource officer, which is a private security officer, evidently got wind of the investigation. Theresa Cruz, 48, the security officer, has been charged with 2 counts of tampering with a witness and 1 charge of obstruction and is being held right now in the county lockup. In Los Angeles, parents gathered last week in the Unified School District at the board meeting and demanded that they get increased police presence. LAUSD, the Los Angeles Unified School District, has their own police department, and they say they're understaffed. But after a number of stabbings, shootings, and a higher increase in drugs on school campuses, parents and teachers have all joined together, and they're demanding security or law enforcement be added. A Nashville security officer is under arrest for theft of a gun. The civilian security officer was assigned to the Metro Nashville Police Department, where he was at the headquarters and stationed at a security guard station checking people coming in to the facility. Evidently, 2 people had illegal guns, and he took them. When a Nashville police officer went to pick up those guns, he said he only had one and didn't know what happened to the second one. Well, Justin Hawkins, 42, was arrested after admitting that he did take one of those guns home. He was a 7-year employee at that facility. He has been charged. Man, why would you even do this and be fired over a stupid gun? He's been charged with theft of a firearm, a felony, but he has bonded out. A cruise line employee has been charged with stabbing 2 security officers. The 35-year-old worker, a South African man, is in custody after some type of confrontation wound up stabbing the security officers. Metro security officer shoots and kills a trespasser after being stabbed in East Hollywood, California. Authorities say that the security officer was working at the Metro Transit at about 9 a.m. at Vermont Avenue and Sunset Boulevard when a confrontation ensued. Metro Contract Security said that the person was a trespasser, and during a sweep of an area found them to be on the property. After a dispute, security initially used pepper spray, and that's when the suspect stabbed one of the security officers in the leg and another one in the chest. That officer opened fire, killing that trespasser. This remains under investigation. A group of teens exchanged gunfire this past week in Berkeley, Missouri. That's close to St. Louis. One teen was injured and now is in custody after this confrontation at a Quick Trip. According to authorities, it occurred about 5 a.m. in the morning when a group of teens inside a vehicle got into a confrontation with a security officer and shot him. The security officer returned fire, wounding one of the teens. Others are wanted in this, and police are continuing their investigation. A Providence, Rhode Island security officer was shot last week as he left work. The security officer was preparing to leave a restaurant and club in Providence when suddenly gunfire, shots fired at the Paris Bistro Lounge on Smith Street about 2 a.m. last Monday morning. The security officer was not injured. Police are investigating. And on and on and on across our country, these situations continue to happen. A security officer was injured during a brawl. The security officer tried to evict several people from a business. They both assaulted the security officer as he tried to detain one of the men. The security officer received injuries, but police quickly arrived and took them into custody. They've been charged with 2 counts of felony assault with a weapon, unauthorized possession of a prohibited weapon, possession of a weapon contrary to prohibition, or, this guy here, one of them's a felon, so he couldn't carry knives or guns, and they're still held without bond. A very interesting story this past week out of Elizabethton, Tennessee, which is on the eastern side. A classroom at a high school investigates cold cases. Oh, they've been doing it for quite a while. Actually, it started in 2018. And they have solved a couple of cases. Well, these teen detectives did it again. Last week they solved a decades-old serial killer case. They all worked together to gather the information. In a small town of 14,000 people, in this little high school, they've been solving cold cases like professional detectives for a number of years. Mr. Campbell is a teacher, and he says the kids in his classroom love what they do. In fact, some of them who are graduating want to come back just to sit in the classroom and be part of the investigations of the cold class. Recently, they looked at a case of Tina Farmer and how she was killed, and also looked at some other cases to see if the MO matched the signature of Tina Farmer's murder. And sure enough, they found some things, and working along, law enforcement was able to have the suspect arrested. They even have a podcast. It's called Murder 101. It's been in the top 10 true podcasts for months. It's a remarkable piece of work. And I have to say, that shows you that there are many, not only civilians, young and old, but people who really want to help security. A restaurant customer shot a security officer in Virginia in the Hampton Roads this past week. Hampton, Virginia, say that a man tried to leave Coaster's Beach Grill. When security stopped him, he shot the security officer. We don't know if he was armed or unarmed. The tab was about $50. The security officer who tried to stop the man was shot once. It's a non-life-threatening injury, but police say they have not made an arrest just yet. Remember, you can report breaking news day or night. All that you have to do is send us a tip at helpdesk@privateofficer.com. We'll take a quick break. When I come back, we've got a lot more going on here on the Private Officer Beat News.
Who knows what a child will grow up to be? It's one of the coolest things about kids. The unknown, the potential, the chance to do or become whatever they can imagine. But what if something happens during childhood that stops them from reaching that potential? Did you know that preventable injuries are the #1 killer of children in the United States? And around the world, one child dies from a preventable injury every 30 seconds. But the important thing to remember about preventable injuries is that they're preventable. We can do something to stop them. Things to make sure kids